Hi, I'm Sarah Kelly, and I apologize for how I look in this video. I'm having a weekend away with my husband, but big news has happened with these petitions, and I felt it important that I post a video and share my purpose and why I am making this video, or why I've pushed so hard for these petitions and the new updates. And before I get into that, and before I get into my story as to why I started these petitions and why they're so important, is because my story could very much cause a trigger and could be disturbing to some. So if at any point this does cause any of those issues, I have no issues with you stopping the video. I started 3 petitions in February on change.org regarding the Social Services and the CPS system, not only in my state, Michigan, but nationally to start. Never ever did I ever imagine that they would take off this far, get this many signatures, nor did I ever imagine that a state rep, my state rep in my area, would take interest in these and take them seriously and help me change the system. I'm 41 years old. My abuse, my childhood trauma, started as early as when I was 8 months old, which is documented. My mother started as my abuser first, and then later, throughout the years, my father started. The abuse was both sexually, physically, mentally, and emotionally over here. The first documented accusation or admission, I guess, of abuse was from my mother to a medical professional in a mental ward in North Carolina, saying that she had slapped her 8-month-old daughter, which would be me, because my crying was getting on her nerves. Just as simple as that. From the day I was born, my mother was considered high risk as far as child abuse and neglect. So at that time there was always a CPS worker involved. I was not removed from the home. I'm not even sure if it was reported or if it was, it's getting on my nerves, investigated. Of course, this was in 1982. As I aged and got older, the abuse continued, anywhere from, beating me with a belt relentlessly, hitting me in the head with hairbrushes, touching me inappropriately, making me do sexual things to her and vice versa, and then holding my head underwater. She would insist on giving me baths, and it was a nightmare. One specific year of incidents that I very clearly remember is when I was 7. and it was the year of Hurricane Hugo in North Carolina. And my mother took a metal fingernail file, kind of like the ones with the brown handle, and then they're metal and pointy at the end. She proceeded to dig in both of my ears with a very pointy part of that fingernail file and busted both of my eardrums. I screamed and cried. She got mad, punched me multiple times in my face, and I remember going to school and my social worker coming and taking Polaroid pictures of my very bruised, swollen face. To this day, I have issues with hearing, and there's scar tissue in my ear. Second, that year, I witnessed a suicide. Saw the person hold a gun under his chin and fire. My mother was upset at me because, again, she had kept me home a lot of the time when I would have significant marks on my body from her hitting me or whatever, and she wanted to hide it sorry, I'm in a place where it's loud, from Social Services. So we lived in a 1-bedroom apartment. There were 4 apartments in the house that we lived in. And I was walking out of the apartment to go downstairs of the apartment house, and as I was going out, the neighbor's door was open. I would always poke in and say good morning or whatever, and that morning I saw him take his life, and my mother was so mad at me that I had to help clean it up. To this day, I can't have white plain walls, and I have to have something around or near a window so it's not plain. Then eventually, when I was 10, I was put into a foster home for 6 months. That was a horrible experience. And CPS required that both of my parents get, take parenting classes and do all these things in order to get me returned to the home. Apparently they did, and I was returned home. Was at home maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. My mother had beat me again, severely with a belt. CPS gave my parents an ultimatum. Either you get a divorce, or they were going to put me in the system, like permanently. Because at the time, my father wasn't abusing me. I mean, there was domestic violence between him and her, but not necessarily me. However, my parents got a divorce. However, my father didn't have custody of me. We had a guardian. We had a guardian, a family that we had known my entire life, who took guardianship of us because apparently my father worked too much to take care of us. However, he got weekend visitation. That's when the really horror in my life started, because from his perspective, it was my fault, and I took away his sexual partner, and I had to take her place. I was 11. So the first few weekends, he put me in a dog cage naked and only fed me bread or even a cracker. And he would only take me out to do my duties that was now expected of me, meaning sexually. It took me years and years and years to tell anybody that because I was petrified of him. Then I became pregnant when I was 15. And I'm not getting into that story because the people that were involved are still around. And I'm scared of those people. But I did my very best without any support. I was pretty much homeless. But I did my best. But I failed. Many years later, I voluntarily terminated my rights so that he could be adopted. Do I regret it? Very much. Was it necessary? Absolutely. Then, in 2004, my father was diagnosed, 2002, he was diagnosed with esophageal cancer in North Carolina. I was in Michigan. As this time was nearing an end, I went to North Carolina while he was in hospice. And he just looked like a skeleton there with skin on his body. But I had to push through my fear and my memories and the pain so that I could have peace and closure. So I sat by his bedside and I held his hand, the hand that did all these horrible things to me. And I hummed and sang Amazing Grace. And I leaned up to his ear and told him that I forgave him. And he took his last breath the moment he heard me say that. I didn't have that chance with my mother. My mother died last year, 2023, June 8th. I only found out by chance at Christmas, 2023, that she had died and was cremated. And although my name, not even my name, just my first name, not even spelled the right way, was in her obituary. And then it went on to say how much she loved children and how much she cherished them. There was no accountability. But now that I'm older, and I'm a mom to a 14-year-old and an 11-year-old, I've been married to the love of my life for almost 18 years. And after a lot of healing and growing and having another very important person that came in my life in such an unexpected way, but was God's plan, was meant to be, and is going to be, and is a permanent fixture in my life. Am I able to pursue my mission? I'm so sorry for this noise. So because of that, I decided 2024 was going to be my year. So I wrote these 3 petitions. Not perfect. I know that there's going to be some tweaking. But it's the idea. It's the start of an idea or a possible intro to a way to change and improve and hold abusers accountable, and to give closure to kids like me. Or even just to start to make a difference for the better. So I wrote these 3 petitions and I put them on change.org. And the amount of support and signatures for these 3 petitions overwhelmed me tremendously. And I couldn't be more grateful. So the big news is Friday before last, I met with my state rep, Kathy Spons. And I met with her in private. And I told her story, told my story just like I'm telling you. And I asked her to help me make this a reality. And she accepted. So I beg of you and I encourage you, after hearing my story and meeting me, to do whatever you can to help support this. Share it, spread it, contact our state reps, any influential person, so we can at least start some kind of movement or get people's attention, because this is a very serious and ongoing, almost an epidemic. That not only will impact that child's life now, while they're going through the abuse and the trauma, but unless there's high intervention, quick intervention, and supreme care, it's going to live with it for the rest of their life. There's going to be some residue or cause and effect of the abuse that they endured. And I'm sitting here in front of you today as living proof of that. So I beg of you to please continue support for these 3 petitions. Spread them to everyone that you know. And understand that that is the reason. My story, my faith is the reason. My motivation to make this a reality. Even if it just only changes or helps one child, then my mission will be complete. But you all have to help me do that. So from my heart to yours, thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for listening to my cause. And thank you for supporting me and supporting these petitions and helping to promote them as much as you possibly can. I hope to send another update soon. Anyone and everyone can contact me at my email, slkelley1921@gmail.com. And I will do my best to be as responsive as possible. God bless you.